Good afternoon. This is Talib Kareem, and we are back for the STEM and Cyber podcast, if you will, or Cyber and STEM podcast, whichever you want to use as first. But we're very excited about this conversation today. We have Jason Goodman, who is an outstanding cyber professional based in not St. Louis, Missouri, but Kansas City, Missouri, and near Kansas City. And he has some wonderful ideas and there's some wonderful stories to share with our young people and their parents about his history. But also he's going to talk, and we're going to talk about the upcoming cyber conference, the Youth Cyber Conference that's set for next Friday through Sunday, a 3-day conference and hackathon that's going to help our young people, particularly our young boys, to develop ideas and manifest those ideas in mobile phone apps to help end the carnage, quite frankly, that is happening in our community. Now, I'm not talking about COVID, but I'm talking about the challenge of youth, oftentimes youth violence that has been deadly, not just here in Washington, D.C., but around the country. So we're looking forward to that conversation with Jason coming up right now. But before I bring on Jason, let me say, if you have any questions to share, put them into the question box. Leave your comments. Don't forget to subscribe and to like and share the content with your friends and relatives. So without any further ado, let me bring on Jason Goodman. Jason, how are you, sir?
Hey, Talib, doing all right. How's it going, man?
Wonderful. So again, Jason, I really appreciate you, and I appreciate our brother from the United States Air Force Academy, Tommy Thompson, for introducing you to us and the STEM family. So let me first of all turn it over to you and ask, first of all, who is Jason Goodman, and what did you, when somebody asked you when you were 17 what you want to do, what did you say that you wanted to do?
Well, I probably the short of this. Let's do the 2-minute drill. So I was born and raised in the southern part of the country. We can think of it kind of a Midwestern kid, but southern Illinois near Kentucky, right? It's very close to Kentucky, about 3 miles from Paducah, Kentucky. And so that was my early experience, right? So you could think of all the things that go with that, going to church, I call it the usual, the traditional Black experience. But around my teenage years, we moved to Chicago, Illinois, on the west side, which would really be considered the urban areas of Chicago, inner city by another name. And that took on a life of its own, taught me some things about differences, taught me some things about survival. One of the curious things I discovered in life when I was a young rural kid, this is like the late 60s, early 70s, racial lines which they've improved, but there was a lot of tension even then. And so people had differences with me as being a Black kid in the white school system. When I got to Chicago, I had the exact same experience as a Southern kid in an urban system, and we can talk about that. But that probably informs you about what shaped my thinking as a kid, right? I was pretty decent as academia. I was, I could do B's pretty regular, B, C student. I wasn't outstanding. But back to what changed my life, I believe that the greatest gift that I received, the blessing I received, was mentoring from others, mentoring and coaching. Now, that requires that you're ready to listen. It also requires that you're ready to take action. We'll talk about that too. So I was a pretty good athlete, had a scholarship to a school in Peoria, Illinois, Western Illinois University, but I injured myself. So being that we're on welfare, I'm a product of the welfare system. Mom was struggling with all of us at home. We're leaving the nest early. I joined the United States Air Force. So from there, I became a citizen of the world, right? And what better preparation for that, meeting everybody from the world, than growing up as a rural urban kid, right? So that's me in a nutshell. 20 years of service. I'm retired now. We got 3 children, married 32 years, man. It's been a minute to the love of my life. And I've started my own business about 15 years ago, doing my own consulting, IT consulting, which is how I met Tommy along the way in that journey. So here I am today, sharing that experience with others.
That's an amazing story, and I appreciate that journey. Let me ask you in terms of mentoring, and again, you're signed up to be one of our mentors for our upcoming Youth Cyber Conference next week. And again, that mentoring session is designed to help coach the teams that are going to be formed to translate their ideas into mobile phone apps. When you're coaching young people like that, and we have already, I think, about close to 100 people signed up for that from all around the country. What are some of the things that you look forward to, imparting upon them and helping them to kind of first start off brainstorming, then translating that brainstorming idea into a mobile phone app?
And it only really works with connection, right? First thing is first. So one of my change agents in life, a gentleman who's no longer living, his name was Alton Carter, wonderful man. He showed up in this community. Here we were, some poor black kids, struggling in many of the ways that many could probably surmise, economically, socially, otherwise. And so he came from Texas and was a graduate of Texas Christian. And he showed up in this pretty much all white town as a chemical engineer for a nuclear fusion company. So he was in charge, and there he was with the white picket fence and the house and all those things that you could imagine. But he played ball. He was on basketball scholarship. There is how he got to Texas Southern. So he would come down and play ball with us. It started with connection. So he would try to mentor us. Hey, young guys, let's come out. Young dudes, let's come by. Let's talk a little bit. Some accepted it. Some thought, hey, what does he know about my life? He's out of touch. All those things. But for whatever be the reason, what he talked about, he would just share these ideas. It stuck with me. I thought, if I got to change my condition, what better way to do it than to be like this man or someone like this man, And of course, there's a journey for that, just like we'll talk about with those who are participating in the program here. It isn't like you just wake up one day with an idea. These things are fostered by people who have either experienced it, done it, or know how to do it. And so in that, over time, that conversation with Alton Carter led him to share with me that about getting a computer science degree and about the future and about what engineering and STEM and all those things were about. We're talking about, man, in like the late 70s, early 80s, right? So there it is. And so I think I would say it starts with connection. And then from there, the person that's going to be mentee, the one that wants to hear from you, needs to lock into the idea that you might actually know what you're talking about, and that everything I say won't apply to you directly. But the elements of what I say will always apply. They don't change.
And it's really interesting that you say that in terms of mentoring and how a conversation can change your life. I am reminded about how I got into the Air Force Academy. Of course, it was a lot of different hands, and of course, the Almighty saw fit to place me in that environment. But I must say that the conversation that I had with Congressman John Conyers, who's also not living with us, no longer living rather, but was an amazing leader from Detroit. Changed my life. I had an opportunity to meet the congressman and, made an impression upon him, and that led him to nominate me to the Air Force Academy. So, we are looking forward to having, you and scores of other people, young, younger and older mentors make an impact on some of these boys who, right now, and no one knows, exactly what young man is going to be touched and how they're going to be touched, but their life can really be changed. What is the situation looking like in Kansas in terms of violence? Are you all experiencing the same things that we are here in this part of the country?
Yeah. Anytime you have urban areas where there's let's call it what it is. There's economic challenges, right? There's inequities. We'll call them that. That goes for every system you could think of. That's for the education system. That goes for the economy. That's about if you could think of every element, there's a disparity. There's an inequity. So if you find that in large clumps of people together, fighting and struggling to survive in those areas, there's going to be violence, man. You got limited resources, and everybody wants something. That was the story of my life. It really didn't change. It was a little different coming from a rural town like Metropolis, Illinois, is what it was called, coming all the way north to Chicago, Illinois. But I found that the plight was much the same. The goals and the drivers much the same. And so I was pretty unruly kid. You can understand you can't, the word of being soft and all that stuff. You got to get what's yours. You got to get down for whatever was yours. That was the mantra. But what I didn't understand was that what we were getting down for was just a minuscule part of the possibility. And until somebody shares that with you and how you can change your life, it's hard to get people to see the future, man. I mean, you ain't got nothing to live for in the greater sense. Some people don't have much to live for. They don't see 10 years, 20 years from now. You know what I mean? So Mr. Alton Carter gave me a vision of what it could be. And in that, when it was great that I got injured, because if I had gone off to college as an athlete, I think back to God's divine wisdom, I would have done poorly because I wasn't focused. It was all about the girls and the thing and that, all the wrong elements. But having been injured and not having the actual athletic prowess, I had to kind of get back to here. I had to get back to the thing that worked, my brain and my logic and my street smarts. And the military took that guy and shaped him into leadership and process and organization and goal. You know what I mean? And then armed with that, I could see clearly Alton's vision for my life, and I engaged it. And boy, what a journey it's been. It took a little while, but I got it done. Yes, sir.
And that is, again, the type of change that we're hoping that will happen in our young men's lives. Oftentimes I say with the mothers that we come into contact with, especially mothers of boys that don't have fathers living with them on a daily basis in their homes, is that, there's no slight on the moms, right? But there are things that mothers are really, really good at, right? And there's things that you need a male mentor or a male figure to help out with. And I can absolutely say, even though I was raised in a home that had my father there, the military experience was also changing, life-changing for me, and particularly basic cadet training, getting the experience of having people who I didn't know get all in my face, for days on end. And the training of learning how to really clean up my room and really clean a bathroom, basic things such as that, having to live in a, instead of me talking, what was your experience like in the military, and how did that impact you?
Right. So it's pretty common experience, right? So the military I hear people often say, well, let me reflect on your first input, right? When we talk about mothers, my mother was the mother father. So she raised 5 children by herself. Now that by yourself really reflects the community. So there was grandma involved sometime, mostly women in my life, I found, which is pretty common in the Black culture, that, is very matriarchal in many senses, right? So there was cousins and the next door, Miss Tinny next door, she was my other mother. So there were all those chipped in on those times where we just didn't have enough food, or they were the bridges over troubled water. But I say this again, it really, what you spoke of, Talib, is about resourcing, right? If we convert that to our IT conversation, developers can't develop on their own, and architecture people do the infrastructure, need to set up the system, configure. So it's a team of people that create the final delivery. You know what I mean? So mothers are working with the tools they were given, and that's a limited set. Just like you couldn't have an all father in the household, right? The tools get limited at some point. So you need a community of people around you, church and otherwise, from all facets of life, to be able to round out your vision and journey, to become the we'll say fullness of your potential. And that's what the military was about. It was immersion, a bunch of people hitting you all at the same time, but they didn't have time to try to sort out what you felt and thought. Here are the directives. These are the goals. Achieve them or not. And here are the tools by which you can do so. And that's what I came away with. And I was more than adept. I was more than ready, man. It was kind of comical coming from Chicago in a way. It was a little funny. People yelling in your face. I was thinking, that's the best you got. It's like, man, I come and hear gunshot around the corner. It wasn't about much for me. But I did realize that it got simpler than, if you just follow the rules, you can have what you want here. That's what I learned. And so that then took more discipline than doing what I wanted to do, if that makes sense, right? So that's the lesson I learned. It's like, this ain't got to be my way, but the way, One
of the things that I think based upon your experience, you can really relate to our young people who are going to be, joining us for the conference next week, is just, thinking out the box. Can you talk about, some of the work that you do now that requires you to think out the box that was, really kind of cultivated even when you were perhaps coming up, in the community that where you were raised?
Yeah, so the analytical person in me, right? Let's talk about. I was told this once. At least I heard this once. There was an artist. I can't remember, a recording artist, that said this: that most people get gifts, right? We all come. Some people a little more analytical. Some people are good with their hands. The universe bestows upon many of us something, right? We don't always know what it is. We don't always know the value of it, but you get it, and that's your gift, right? It's one thing to find that gift. He said that will get you. He said, if you're a singer, you got to be able to, have intonation and the pitch and flow and read them. So that'll get you in the building and get you a contract. He said, then to be a star and to make a living out of this, you have to develop your talent. That's a different animal. And he said that requires effort, and that requires all the things you need: education, that needs mentoring, you need contact and networking, you need everything to make that thing work. So for me, that's the premise. That's the thing I spoke, that pulled me through, was getting in environments like now. I grew up in environments, after 15, 20 years of my own, there's disparity, right? That some environments are totally broken with no structure. And that's a different set of parameters to apply. Some environments have everything going on and there's pristine structure, very specific performance elements, and you have to find your way to be successful in that. So I would say the ability to adapt, Talib, is probably the most, I guess, my greatest attribute. And I would say it's one that sustained my career with a variety of different clients, because no one or two of these companies are the same,
And it's interesting you say that, in terms of like no different companies are the same. When I understand you worked with TorchAI, and you were, and
yes.
that's a startup, as you may know, and different from some of the other larger companies. What are some of the different challenges that you see that are facing startups versus challenges that are facing larger companies?
Right. Let's do a contrast, right? So a company like TorchAI, and there are others like it, for better or worse, have all these brilliant people. I mean, we're talking about the brightest of the brightest. I've met some people who really are extraordinarily smart and extraordinarily capable in terms of development and technological, architecting and delivery, right? So we're talking about artificial intelligence, man, and machine learning. That's all future stuff. That's where we are now. But contrast that to, say, Bank of America I work for, that, has got 300,000 employees, and, who, if you spoke that name somewhere, who wouldn't know what that is, right? But yet I was working on the systems analytics platform that they had, and it's been not long ago. I won't, maybe 8 years, maybe not quite 10 years ago. And they had most of their backup data on these old school reel-to-reel tapes. I couldn't make that up for you, man. And we had to find special devices to read them out to recover some of it, that of which we could. So I say that to say that that's the disparity, right? That's the difference. So for me, I don't really have the luxury of I just got to find my best way to contribute as much as I can. And when that runs out, one of two things happen, Talib. Either A, the contract that I have ends and there's nothing else for me to do, or B, I have nothing else to contribute and I need to move on. So, but the goal is to be able to contribute as much as you can to the betterment of your clients as possible. That's my life as a consultant. I'm a problem solver. So my job is to get in and make it better than it was before I arrived,
And talk a little bit about, like young people who are coming to the conference, for example. They're coming with the idea that by learning a little bit about cybersecurity or cyber, IT help desk management, or some of the other skill sets that you do and you teach others to do, it can help them to go into careers where they're able to make as much as 6 figures just with a couple of months of training. Are you familiar with those types of stories? And what do you talk to young people as a way of inspiring them to pursue those types of opportunities?
Right. Yes. Right. So I was always taught this, that it's not what you know, but who you know and who knows you. So accreditations, let's talk about certifications. Those are the words we're talking about, right? Whether it be academic, college, I have a computer science degree and some certifications. Other people have mostly certifications. Some of my colleagues are mostly PMP or some kind of, a software development certified person. But here's the simple point, Talib. None of it matters until you either complete that process and then you reach a state where somebody knows who you are and what you've done. In other words, it's knowing stuff and learning stuff, even if it's self-learned, autodidactic learning, you still have to be proven out by somebody. That's the great challenge from industry to industry. Now, for me at this stage in my career, 15, 20 years in, I have a network of people who know my work. So I can contact that network to check for availability of opportunity or to even get insight into what's going on in the industry, you understand? But that's the whole goal of getting some certifications, is to get accredited in some way, learn something that is yours. It's an innate, we'll call it skill set, talent, right? And that thing is then you translate that into value. Now that value will have a lot to do with how long you've been at it, right? There's you and I know that some people, it's been said that you have some people who have been working for 20 years that have 1 year worth of experience. You know what I'm saying? They've been using it for 20 years, but they're not 20-year tenure. There are other people who are quite brilliant who just need an opportunity. But you can create that opportunity, but it's hard to talk people into stuff when you have nothing to bring to the table, if that makes sense.
It absolutely makes sense. And, as you conclude our conversation, what are one of the things that you look forward to particularly imparting upon the young people that you are going to be interacting with next week in our cyber conference? And, what is some advice that you would pass on to yourself if you were in their shoes, at 17, based upon what you've learned now?
Right. Focus on your goals, right? I think most of the time people it's okay to dream, right? Dreams are beautiful. In fact, everything from the airplane, modern day airplane to you name it, were ideas, right? Somebody's vision, we'll call it a dream. But then sooner or later, you got to convert that into something that actually flies. And that becomes quite complex, okay? It requires a sundry of skill sets. So to that end, you the person, the mentee, have to decide, like I did with Alton Carter, am I in or am I out? And if I'm in, am I all the way in here? Am I doing it, going to do it all the way? Or am I just listening so it make me feel good? At the point where you decide to get all the way in, there are then steps and processes that you'll have to follow to get to your goal. So, but if you have a goal, that's the start. What you want to be. And then here are the 50 things you got to do to get to it. Are you willing to do all 50? If not, then it's going to be quite a long journey for you. But without those credentials, without some kind of, we'll call it accreditation is the word for that, right? Even you and I, you can accredit me through people that that know me. That's kind of how it's done. Without that, my daughter, she's going to college and she's got she's almost finished. So she wants to take a year off. Some people take a year out, right? But I share with her this: if you don't finish this education, which you don't have to, by the way, everybody doesn't need a college degree. But I said, but the truth is, you're still the same as the person that just left high school. When you look on a transcript, that's what it's going to look like, right? You don't have a degree. So and no one's going to dig into the Y4s, right? That's a check next. The same will happen as we talk to the young folks about certification and goals in life. Most people are not going to try to get down on what your passion and feelings are about this matter. They want to know what you know and how you can bring value to the organization. That's going to be what you will be working on. And that starts with some kind of certification or accreditation or education.
Well, I can't tell you how much we enjoyed this conversation. And, you talked about accreditation, you talked about, mentorship, you talked about, the discipline that the military experience gave you. We're looking forward to you and other, outstanding and amazing people conveying those types of principles and those types of values at our Youth Cyber Conference coming up next Friday. We are partnering with Kappa Alpha Psi and Pepco and leaders from around the country, including you, Jason. And so we want you to know that we appreciate your commitment, not only of your time, but also your money and, your enthusiasm and resources. And we look forward to you sharing the word with all our young people up there or down there in Kansas City, and getting them excited. A number of them, I'm sure, have already signed up, but we look forward to for people participating. For folks who want to participate and who haven't already, let me make sure I put here in the chat for you an opportunity for you to go ahead and just click on the chat and sign up. And I know you're going to be leaving, Jason. So again, Jason, we appreciate you, and we look forward to you, being with us next time. Well, that was Jason Goodman, and we're really, really excited about him joining us, and you hopefully joining us along with your young people. And again, just to note, this conference is for young men. And the reason why we're focusing on young men is because sadly, young men are the people who are the most at risk in terms of being involved with violence in our neighborhoods. So we have to deal with our young men in a way that we don't deal with young women. And there are definitely different skills that we need to convey, and different ways of conversations that we need to be able to have with our young boys. And no slight against girls at all. I have a young girl myself that I'm raising, and I have a lot of nieces who I love and support. But we, at some time, we got to deal with our young men. And sadly, we have not been dealing with them enough exclusively that would give them the type of mentoring, would give them the type of inspirations, give them the type of models that will lead them away from what is happening on our streets right now. So we're looking forward to having this conversation with our leaders like Jason Goodman, like Dr. Makola Abdullah, one of our guest speakers, like even the president of Pepco, Donna Cooper, like Cameron Evans, another one of our partners, like Tommy Thompson, and like our colleague from the Air Force, Leon Butler. We are looking forward to having these conversations with these leaders, having them engage with our young people, getting our young people trained in some wonderful technology to help them build mobile apps, and hopefully having these ideas lead to the end or at least a reduction of violence in our neighborhood. If you have, again, any questions about the conference, don't hesitate to click on that link. You can always, again, like and subscribe to this channel for any updates. Put your questions either in the Dropbox there, or send an email to us at talib@stem4us.org, and we can do our best to get back with you promptly. Again, we appreciate Jason Goodman. We appreciate our staff, including Ariel and Shay, as well as Samir and Salaman, and all of our board and everybody else who's been supporting us along these days to get ready for this amazing program. We look forward to working with you all and having an outstanding 3-day conference next August the 13th, 14th, and 15th. Don't forget to sign up if you haven't already. We have about 200 tickets that have been sponsored, but I think about 100 of them have already been scooped up. So don't delay. If you haven't already signed up, these tickets are likely to go fast, and we want to make sure that you, if you haven't gotten a chance to sign up, that you will get that. Talk to you soon, and have a wonderful night or a wonderful day if you're screening this at another time. Take care.